Hello and welcome to Live with Bottleneck. My name is Jamie J. And if you don't know me, I'm the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants. Really proud to have been chosen one of the top virtual assistant companies today by the platform Superb Companies. That was pretty exciting. So as of the date and time of this recording, we've been chosen one of the top virtual assistant companies in the entire world, and we're really pumped about that. But this isn't the reason that we're here. All the guests that I bring on board is designed to help stop the bottleneck in your business. And so I'm really stoked to be introducing you to Gabe Nelson. He's the money guy, but I'll be talking more about him in just a second when we come back in about 38 seconds. Welcome to Live with Bottleneck. I am your host, Jamie J, CEO and founder of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants. You can learn more about us by going to bottleneck.online, launching a new website pretty soon. But that's not really what I'm here to talk about today. As you may have heard in the pre-intro, we're here, we find guests that are extraordinary in their niche market, and they're all designed to come on board and help you stop the bottleneck in your business. And oftentimes that's me, that's you. We're the bottlenecks, and we need help from time to time as leaders of our own organizations or team leaders or managers. We always need a platform to continue educating ourselves, and that's what this is for. As I said at the top of the show, I am going to be talking with the one and only Gabe Nelson. We're going to learn about the 5 steps to a more profitable solo business. And who is Gabe Nelson, and why is he the person that I have on today that's going to be talking about this? With almost 3 decades in the financial services industry and more than a decade as an independent small business owner, he can relate to you and me. Gabe Nelson has already had an established, thriving practice and a solid reputation in his industry when he recognized an interesting trend among some of his favorite clients. More and more, he found himself working with self-employed professionals and solopreneurs, solo entrepreneurs. And as a business owner himself, he was fired up about helping them navigate the unique challenges they were facing because he was just like them. And I think that's going to be one of the best parts of this conversation today. He understood that independent professionals have specific needs. Most financial advisors don't really know what it takes to transition from employed to independent contractor status or establish a long-term financial security without relying on a regular paycheck. And he also knew that with more of the workforce becoming self-employed every single day, more people could benefit from working with an advisor who knows how to plan for the whole financial picture, including legal, estate, financial, retirement, life, disability, and more, with the entrepreneurial spirit. And as we all know, one of my favorite sayings, is ESS, entrepreneurial squirrel syndrome. We need that help. So without any further ado, please allow me to introduce you to Mr. Gabe Nelson of Nelson Financial. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How about you, Jamie?
Oh my gosh, I am really pumped to have you here today because I want to learn what these 5 steps to a more profitable solo business is. But first of all, can you give us a little bit of background on who you are and kind of what you do?
Oh, well, who I am is a father of 3 daughters. My wife and I just celebrated our 25th anniversary. We live in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I tell anybody that ever listens to me that I'm in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, because that's where my wife wanted to be. We graduated college. She wanted to be in Sioux Falls. I wanted to be with her. Here we are 25 years later. We got 3 daughters, 20, 16, 14. Basically have been in the financial advisory industry ever since I graduated college. Started out in the insurance side, morphed into the advisory business, decided I'd had enough in 2008 and started my own firm. And August 1st of 2008, literally before the financial crisis. I think it was within 60 days of Lehman going bankrupt, the market dropping. My business plan was built with revenues here, and with the market dropping, they ended up being here. And I went into flat out survival mode for a while with my business just to make it through. And I learned a ton about starting, a business. And being a financial advisor with a big firm, you don't really have to totally run a business. You can kind of just do your thing. But the minute you go start your own firm, you've got to hire, you got to fire, you got to have all your systems, you got to have everything put in place. And what I found is I knew less than I thought I did. So I basically, and so over time, I just continuously kept working with more people like myself. I kept learning and honing the craft and the skills, and come to where I'm like, you know what, I need to just spend all my time working with solopreneurs for the future. And that's what brings me here to you. Like you said in the intro, my business was going fantastic. It was great. I hit a point a couple years ago where it was like, all right, I something else needs to come with this business, and we need to tweak something and start really finding that niche. And really looked at things and thought, gosh, this solopreneurship and this whole small business solo entrepreneur world was just exciting to me. And I really think we're going to see even more of it over the next few years with this whole stuff going on in the world right now with COVID-19 and everything. So I'm just excited to be here. Yeah. Sorry, Jamie.
Yeah. Hey, no, by all means. Yeah, that's, I want to make sure that we really get your message and share it with so many people. By the way, for those of you that are watching either on Facebook or listening, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, whatever it is, if you have a question, please feel free to ask it. And I'll go ahead and post it up here so that Gabe, the professional, the money man, will be able to answer it effectively. One of the things that I have to point out before we go into those 5 steps or those 5 things we need to kind of look into, I have to say kudos on your website, because you did such a great job. And if you go to gabenelsonfinancial.com/prospective clients, if you're wondering about how you might be able to use Gabe's services, he is very clear on demonstrating who he can work with. And I thought, I just want to give, hats off to you there, because he's working with startup solopreneurs, 100,000 solopreneurs, single mom, multi 6-figure entrepreneurial couple. He really goes into detail there. So you kind of get the whole gamut of everything. I'm talking like you're not even here, but I was really impressed when I read through that. It was very well done.
Thank you. Yeah, I got to give some credit to my marketing consultant. Her name is Crystal Butler, Crystal Marketing Solutions. She's a marketing consultant specifically for financial advisors. And I hired her at the beginning of the year, and I said, all right, I've never had to market for 20 years. And the last 12 was really just word of mouth since I started my firm. And I'm like, I really want to start to do it right. And she did it. She set that up perfectly. Hired a company called Lawton Marketing Group, I believe, out of Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. They did a great job on that website. So I got to give kudos where it's due. That's for darn sure.
Well, good for you for saying, you know what, this is what I want to do. I'm going to step forward and I'm going to do it. That's a big lesson for us all. And Raina says, hello, Gabe from the Philippines. Raina was kind enough to put us together here and get this all organized for us. So she just wanted to jump in and say hi.
Hi, Raina. You did a great job so far. Your communication's been fantastic. So thank you.
Yeah, she's absolutely amazing. So I wonder if maybe we can dive into some of the things that you're talking about, 5 steps to a more profitable solo business.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Yeah. And what I'll do is I'll craft it kind of in a story. I had a client come to me. Let's call him Lloyd. Lloyd came to me. And if you ever hear any of my podcasts or any of the information I share out there, I always like to use the name Lloyd. It was my grandfather, and my grandfather was a fantastic small business owner and self-employed guy for his whole life. Anyways, I like to use the name Lloyd. Lloyd came to me. Solopreneur, was just confused. He was upset. He wasn't really thrilled about where his business was going. He wasn't sure about his profitability. And so we sat down and we went through these 5 steps. And the first steps was basically to just dig into his expenses and get a feel for, as a solopreneur, as a small business owner, what are we really spending our money on and where's it going? And so we pulled out 2 years of the tax returns. We pulled out the QuickBooks. We dug into his expenses to try to get a feel for, what was his expense per client or expense per customer, so that he could start to get a feel for what is it taking him to run his business. And so what I basically did is we came away, and we'll just use this example, $240,000 of annual expenses. I mean, all in, paying him, his benefits for himself, his rent, etc. $240,000 of expenses. He has about 300 clients. And so we just did some simple math and figured it was about $800 per year for per client to have in place. And so that we could start to figure out how to then make those changes with his business as we went through. And I did create a resource that's on my website, gabenelsonfinancial.com/resources. That is part of the 5 steps to a profitable business. That is in conjunction with one of my podcasts that you can go through, download the form, and you could start filling in your own information to get a feel for where it was. And so step number 1 was really to dig into his expenses to see, because when I started out, it was flat out survival because of what was going on in the market. And then, as most small business owners, what do? We focus on everything other than money. We run like crazy. We put out fires, and a good share of us are very profitable, but we still don't always know where our money is going. And so we start with the expenses to figure out where's our money really going. The second step that we went through with Lloyd was to figure out what his revenues were. Like, how much money is he truly making? And we found out he was making about $360,000 in annual revenues, which obviously you can tell right now from the quick math, he's actually making money, but $360,000 in revenues. And we divided that by his 300 clients. And we found out that he had about $1,200 per year of client revenues. All right. So step 1, figure out what your expenses are. Where are those going? Step 2 is to figure out what is your average revenue per client, per customer, whatever your situation is, to figure out, all right, where are we making our money? And then the third step was to analyze that and start with the analysis of just quick math. All right. Well, if we know that we got $1,200 in revenues coming in per client on average, and if we know that we have expenses of approximately $800 per client, that tells us that we have $400 in profit. Now, most people look at that and go, "Oh, I got a 50% profit margin." And it took me a little while, even as a financial advisor, to go, "No, that's not quite a 50% profit margin. That's a 33% profit margin." Because you figure your profit margin, you take that $400 profit and divide it by your $1,200, that gives you your 1/3. Now, the thing is for all of us solopreneurs and solo business owners that use their CPA, which totally extra information here. If you don't have a CPA or a tax professional, please get one as a solo business owner.
Not second that enough.
Yes. And pay them well. Find a good one. Pay them well. Mine is on a retainer, to where we do a business retainer. So I pay a decent amount per month. And I basically 3-4 times a year be like, okay, his name's James. James, it's time to get together. Let's sit down. Let's go through everything. Let's plan out the rest of the year. Here's where we are year to date. And we have 3 meetings a year to make sure that we're really on top. And so as I'm talking through my business over the years, I'm like, what profit margin is good for just like starting business owners? And he said that the standard in their industry is a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So it's a standard business starter for CPAs. And that 1/3 is 1/3 of what you would call your overhead, your expenses, 1/3 of payroll, and then 1/3 profit. So when you're pricing a product, a service, the idea is to try to hit those bogeys first. Now, every business owner is going to be different.
Sure.
I operate 99% of the time out of my house. And so you guys are looking at my office in my basement that I run my business out of. I have a little 10 by 11 suite that I turn into a a meeting room for clients, it literally looks like you're walking into a therapist's office.
Oh, wow.
It's got 2 chairs, a coffee table, and a leather love seat. It's actually pretty funny. When my clients come in, they're like, am I supposed to lay down? Well, if you want to, you can.
Relax, kick your shoes off.
Exactly. But any of your listeners that has a financial advisor, you know that a lot of times we end up being marriage counselors. We end up being business counselors. We end up being a a lot of things just because of the relationship.
Friends. I hope.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. And you know what? Something struck me. My wife and I love boating, so we're always going boating. Almost every weekend we can get out. We love to go because it's a great way to just detox from the business, I guess, decompress, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody talks about revenue. It's like in boating terms, it's like a big old yacht, and then its profits like a little dinghy, right? So you have to get that through there. And I know we're only on step 3 of 5, so I want to jump into that, but I want to comment on something. I work with a friend of mine, a close friend that's been with me for I've been friends with him for probably 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until about 2.5 years ago that maybe even less, maybe 2 years ago, that I really had to get serious. Mm-hmm. But I have to tell you, Gabe, I was so afraid of turning over my books to somebody, because then they would still see the real McCoy. They'd see the real Jamie. They'd see the real Bottleneck. They'd see the real what we had going on. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot different under the sheets as opposed to seeing this nice, perfectly made bed.
Oh, yeah.
Without deterring you from step 4 and 5, because I want to get to those, what do you tell people that are right? And let me preface this by letting everybody know I was a complete and utter disaster when it came to finances. Complete and utter disaster. You name all the wrong moves you can do, and that was me. I was completely irresponsible. We didn't even have QuickBooks at the time or anything like that. We were doing everything through PayPal, and that was it. Like it was brutal. What can you do to make people that may have been in my position and are there right now, solopreneur, that they're starting to make more money, they're starting to really do good and come into their own? What can you help them what can you tell them to say, hey, you know what? It's time for me to call Gabe. It's time for me to have the wherewithal, the cojones, to kind of do this thing, because it's scary. It was scary for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing that I'll say is when you are scared to go talk to that advisor, that generally means you need to get to somebody quickly, because you're recognizing that, all right, this has exceeded my area of expertise. I need somebody that I can trust, that can help me, that can guide me. And so what I would urge everybody to do is, the first thing is, if you have that feeling like, holy crap, I'm a mess, I really don't know what to do. Think about your business. When you truly don't know what to do, when it's outside of money, because money is one of those things that just causes people to get all stressed up, all bundled up. They get embarrassed. They don't know what to do next. You got to remember that financial advisors like myself, and there's a lot of great financial advisors out there, that really our whole goal is to understand you, figure out what your goals are, what your objectives are, and figure out how we can help you achieve those goals and get you to those steps. I can tell you that most of the financial advisors that I know, and most of them that operate like I do, we love it when there's a mess, because now we can really truly help you and bring tremendous value so that we can help you through those steps to get you to where you want to be. And so what I would urge you small business owners and solopreneurs to do, that if you're feeling that, reach out to somebody, build a relationship with somebody, find somebody that you can truly trust, that you feel can understand you. And then they can, for lack of another way to put it, take you by the hand and guide you through that and make those steps. Don't be embarrassed. Think in terms of, all right, this is outside of my area of expertise. I'm going to hire that done. I mean, I said it a little bit ago, the beginning of the year. Now, I've been self-employed with my own firm since 2008. I'm about ready to celebrate my 12-year anniversary of being completely on my own. And I finally was just like, all right, I got to start hiring people to do everything. But what I realized is I really don't play in the sandbox very well with other people when it's my sandbox and my toys. And so what I figured out is I don't want to have a bunch of employees. I want to outsource them and find people who are experts in their area to help you. So for example, I hired a virtual assistant company that specializes only in financial advisors. That's all that they do is financial advisors. They only will take financial advisors that work with a certain software program, that only work with a certain custodian. Everything that they do, they only do certain ones. So I knew I had an expert immediately, and all I had to do was focus on the relationship with that person to delegate everything off of my plate that needs to be done. I would call on my back office. Okay.
Love it.
Yeah. And so my consulting firm that I chose, Crystal Marketing Solutions, same thing. I reached out to her, and basically she is an absolute expert, only works with financial advisors. I knew after I interviewed her and everything sounded great, it's like, all right, let's go. And I just opened up the book. I opened up the book with Vicky, who's my virtual assistant, with Crystal. And then as I add more, I will just be flat out open, like, hey, you are the expert. I'm really good at managing relationships and managing money and doing financial planning. That's what I'm really good at. The rest of the stuff I'm not good at.
Well, it's good that you understand what you are good at.
Mm-hmm.
And so before we hop into step 4, I have one more question.
Yeah.
What are some of the telltale signs? You said if you're overwhelmed and you're scared already, you really need to go. But what are some signs you can say that, okay, do I go and say, hey, Gabe, I'm thinking about starting a business, and reach out to you? Or is it something that's been, I've been doing this for a while and now I'm starting to grow a little bit, so I think I need Gabe's help? Like, what are some signs, and when do I approach you?
That's a good question. What I have had the most success, the people I do my best work with, all right, for me, is that person who's been working, let's say, at a company or as a consultant for a firm for many, many years, and they finally are like, all right, I've had it. I'm going to go start my own consulting firm. I'm going to go take the expertise that I've already had. I'm going to take my Yoda from here and turn it into a Yoda over here, and I'm going to grow a business. Those people, I've done great work. The other ones are the ones who have been very successful. They start making really good money. They start making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, and they go, holy buckets, this is more complex than I can handle. I'm paying way too much in taxes. I seem like I'm spending all the money, and I'm not building my retirement. I'm not getting those other things in place to allow me to achieve my goals. Maybe we're making great money, but we're not paying off debt. Maybe we're making great money, but we're paying in taxes, and we're not planning well enough, and therefore we're just paying too much in taxes.
We don't have anything left over. We're not saving.
Exactly. We're not saving. We're not putting money away. Yeah. Exactly. So where I do my best work is those career changers that come in and go, all right, I've got this great idea. I know I can do it. Can you help me, guide me along? And I'm not a business coach, but I've been doing this long enough that I know the steps to avoid, and then I can help them set everything up. And then those successful solopreneurs, things get too complicated for them, and they're like, I need somebody to take over this. And like I said earlier, I take you by the hand and say, all right, let's go. I'm going to just take you through. We're going to avoid the landmines, and we're going to make great decisions, and you're going to be able to go retire when that day comes on your terms, and you're going to be set and ready to go. Now, that might be 10 years now. It might be 20 years. It just all depends on everybody's unique situation.
I love that. And one thing before I segue into step number 4 is oftentimes leading your own organization as a solopreneur, or as maybe a couple running a business, like my wife and I run this business. It's hard to confide in your staff regarding your financial situations, payroll and things like that. It really is. Now, be open and transparent with them, but there's some things that you need to just really take care of yourself. That's part of your responsibility of being a successful business owner. And so I really think that it's important that you look to someone outside of your organization that has the expertise, as you said before, and at least have that conversation, start moving in that direction. And I feel even if you're not ready to step in that direction, I think it's really smart to reach out and start having conversations and see who you feel comfortable with, things like that, no matter what it is. But in this case, talking about your financial future, what better time to start than right now today?
Exactly.
Right?
Yep, I totally agree. Yeah.
What's step number 4?
Let me go back into a little bit of step number 3.
Okay.
Part of step number 3 is analyzing where everything is going when it comes to the details of, all right, if my average client expenses, for this example, $800 per year, and my average revenue is $1,200 per year, where pull out each of those clients, pull out that list of 300. How many clients do you have that are actually between 800 and 1,200 that might need a fee increase? Because what do we do when we start a business? We're worried we're going to starve. We lower our fees. We do everything we possibly can to get business on the books, and then we take years to fix that problem. So the first place you look is, all right, how many of my clients am I billing in this example? Lloyd, more than $1,200 per year. Thank them. All right. How many clients are between $800 and $1,200 per year? And if it's all a very similar service model, can you raise those fees from $800 to $1,200? And then how many of your other clients / customers are under 800, which means you're losing money on those people. All right. So that is then to then break down where those numbers are so that you know which clients you need to then build your plan for. And that's step number 4 is you build a plan as to what you're going to do to bridge the gap. And that bridging of the gap comes into building of the plan. It's, all right, if I know that clients A through C are fantastic clients, and they are all being billed over my $1,200 per year, for example, but then I know my D through J's or D through L's or D through Q's, whatever it is for that, if those clients then are between 8 and 1,200, what can you do to help raise those revenues? And then how about your ones that you're losing money on? You've got to not lose money. None of us went into business to lose money. I mean, if that's the case, we might as well change ourselves to a charity. Yeah. So then the idea is to figure out, okay, how can I basically increase those revenues to exceed that? So that's our biggest place that we as a solopreneur can go back through and normalize our revenues to get them back to where they should be across the board. Now, that's not easy. That's hard. All right. If you think it's hard to go to the financial advisor you've never talked to, how about going back to your current clients and saying, hey, I need to raise your fees? That's not easy. But with a well thought out plan, which is in step 4, you think about what is the best way for me to go back and do that. All right. Is it a letter? Is it individual meetings? Is it, a fee increase? Whatever that is that you need to do to then raise those revenues. So,
it's a good question. That's a really good point. And I want to give an example. We recently went through this in our organization, and we changed from one type of payment method to a subscription-based method. And the reason why we did that is we did find out we needed to bridge that gap. The more people we brought on board, the more infrastructure we had, the more software we purchased, those costs started piling up. And we needed to figure out a way that would be more efficient and could bring in the money that we needed, not only to break even, but to finally maybe turn a profit. Why not? Why not turn a profit? We're in business.
Exactly.
So we started that subscription process, and we added a couple of different things, and we kind of made it, we made a more robust package or robust offering, and it really helped us out. It made it easier for people to pay us. We didn't have to go chase invoicing, and they knew exactly what they got. Plus, they got some additional things that we could use and leverage from our internal team that really made it worthwhile to make that leap. Now, did everybody do it? No. Did most of the people do it? Yeah, they sure did. But you're right. We had to sit down and really figure out a way to bridge that gap. And that's when we changed from invoice-driven billing to our subscription-based billing with some additional added value in there.
Right. And what did you do? You built your plan. You then communicated that plan. And when you communicated that plan, you made sure that there was value in your offering, because the people already know and love and trust you, Jamie. They already do. So therefore, they're going to continue to stay with you if you can give them a good reason why. So the solopreneurs out there that are thinking, holy crap, I can't raise my fees. Yes, you can. You just have to do it the right way. You have to sit down, you have to build your plan, and you have to communicate your plan, and you have to be willing to understand that you are going to lose some clients. And that's okay. Because if you're not profitable, why do you have them on in the first place? Exactly. You're losing money.
Exactly. We're so afraid of, hurting someone else's feelings, so much so, especially in this day and time where reputation is everything. Credibility is everything. It's a big, you really have to be doing all you can personally and customer service oriented, and all of that comes because in the day of the internet, you can click on a button, go to your, competitor and pay 50 cents less, or, $50 less, or $500 less, whatever it is. And people are moving. Are those really the people you want to do business with?
No. They're definitely not. Definitely not. So step 3 was to analyze and break it down. Step 4 then was to basically build your plan. And build your plan as to what are you going to do to move the needle, whatever your needle is needing to be. Now, let's just say, because we've talked about revenues, there's another area to increase your profitability, and that's to cut your expenses. Now, generally, when we think of cutting expenses, we start thinking, all right, well, I got to get rid of people, or I got to get rid of this, or I got to get rid of that. Now, as solopreneurs, most of us don't have people. I mean, it's hard to get rid of people. We can decrease the amount of hours we are sending to our subscription-based virtual assistants. We can do some of that, which obviously you don't like to hear, Jamie. You want that to stay up. But the bigger thing that I see with most solopreneurs is this. We've got hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars flying through our credit card every month on software or subscriptions or things that we just don't use anymore. I mean, I at the beginning of the year, every single year, sit down and I go through, am I using that software anymore? Nope. Coom, that one's gone. Am I using that one? No. I'm using that? No. So I continuously every year just sit down and go through my books and say, all right, do I use that software anymore? No. It's only $50. Does it really matter? No. $50 doesn't matter. But you know what? $50 times 5 adds up to $250. Next thing you know, you just saved $250.
$6,000.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how fast that can grow to save you money. And then on the personal side, how many of us have subscriptions at the gym? All right. And how many of us are still paying subscriptions at the gym with COVID going on and you're not able to get there? Well, cancel that. You can always start it back up again. Yep. And so the second way is to then cut your expenses. So that's part of your plan. You go through your plan and you then build that plan. What am I going to do as a solopreneur? What can I control? And what I control is I can control my revenues to an extent, and I can control my expenses. You build your plan. Step number 5 is to execute the plan. How many of us solopreneurs put unbelievable plans in place, but then we don't execute? We don't take action. There's a ton of us that do that. I mean, I've got a manuscript sitting there ready for a book. I want to write a book here eventually. It's sitting there ready to go. All I have to do is, make that next phone call and we'll go through it. We got to execute. The book won't happen until I make that call. And so we have to execute.
That's just that right there is probably the biggest hiccup that so many of us suffer from. And I'm going to go back when you were talking about the other way is reducing overhead, or maybe canceling. You know what we did? I told you we were a complete mess. We did everything with our PayPal. It's sitting right here. Here's our PayPal card. And there's no numbers on there, so don't worry. But we canceled that. And then all of a sudden we started getting all these notices like, hey, your card didn't go through. We need you to pay this in order for that. Oh, do I need that service? Okay, go ahead and cancel. And then we put everything through our bank debit card. We actually got a business bank account and we're putting all that through our operations account and business. Sounds very logical and simple, but that's one of the things we did. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that really, really, really helped us out. And Raina says execution is the hardest part. She's darn right.
It is
definitely the hardest part there. So these were the 5 steps that you talked about. I want to go ahead and put them up there. Step number 1, dig into your expenses. Step number 2, where your revenue is going, find out where everything is at. Step 3, analyze your current financial situation. Step 4, it's time for you to build a plan as to what you're going to do in order to bridge the gap. Who's not paying you enough? Who is? What do you need to do? And then once you have that plan, step 5 is execute the plan.
That is correct.
Is that about right? Now,
that is right.
You gave a URL earlier where they can go and download this 5-step plan. What is the URL again?
GabeNelsonFinancial.com/resources.
I'm going to put it on here for everybody. There we go. Go to GabeNelsonFinancial.com/resources, and you can go download these 5 steps. And I highly encourage you to do that today. Like today, go visit the site. Or as soon as you're watching this, if you're watching it at a replay, go to this site. I'll also put this in the comment section as well, so that people can see this there. It's that important, in my opinion, for everybody to do that. So we're getting close to the end of the half hour here, and I wonder if there's anything else you'd like to say before we wrap today.
Biggest thing that I would say for you solopreneurs out there is find somebody that you can trust. That's the biggest piece. Find somebody you can trust and start to build a relationship with somebody. If you have that itch right now that you know that you need to make some changes with your business and you need a financial advisor to step in and help you, find somebody you can trust. The other piece of the puzzle is you can do this yourself. There's no reason you can't. You just got to sit down. You got to take the time and follow the 5 steps so that you know where you are. And then you can just start working your way through it and go from there. The other thing that I would say is have fun. Business is supposed to be fun. I have fun every single day, and it's okay to fire clients, solopreneurs. I'm sure that some of you have done it, but when you get to a point where they're not fun anymore, maybe it's time to make a change. And that's the biggest thing that I would leave you with.
Amen to having fun. Like, why do we get involved in this anyways?
One, we got to have fun. We do have to make a profit. We do have to be able to keep the lights on so that we don't have to go work for somebody else if that's what our nature is. I've never been able to work for somebody else all the way back until I think my jobs in high school were, sub-delivery people. And when I worked at the grocery store, I didn't want to be up front stuck in the checkout line. I wanted to be back in the dairy so I could go walk around and kind of screw around a little bit and talk to people and fill milk and then go back. And so if that's your nature, just make sure you build fun into this, because that's what it's for.
I love it. And why work with people you don't want to work with? In the beginning, I get it. You got to get there. And what's good about that too is you learn who you don't want to work with or you're not good at working with. That's a very valuable lesson to have. But for the people that are ready to come talk to you, they've probably been through that and they're getting ready to make those adjustments, or they need to. So now's a great time to reach out to you.
Definitely.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, I cannot thank you enough, Gabe, for sharing your 5 steps and your knowledge. And I love the fact that you're proudly unemployable.
Very unemployable. Yes.
Was there anything else?
Nope. That's great. I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yes, for sure. Well, hold on one quick second. I'll go ahead and wrap up here. Bear with me. And hey, big, super huge shout out to Gabe Nelson. If you get the chance, go to GabeNelsonFinancial.com. As a matter of fact, if you want to download the 5 steps, go to GabeNelsonFinancial.com/resources. It's right here on the screen, right here. I'll also put it in the notes there, or the chats, so that you can find that. We're going to be live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, anywhere we can try to get this message out to you. Why was Gabe here today? Well, he wanted to help you as far as getting your financials in order. And the basically Live with Bottleneck is for that very reason. We invite experts just like Gabe Nelson on all the time to help you stop the bottleneck in your business. I want to say thank you for joining us today. My name is Jamie J, CEO and founder of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants, and a special thanks to Gabe Nelson, financial advisor of Gabe Nelson Financial. Kudos to him. One more time, I'm going to say, go download the 5-step plan. Go to gabenelsonfinancial.com/resources. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate you. And remember, make your own ripple.